Hey y'all, so welcome to the replay. If you are watching this, I have a special guest on tonight that's going to share her testimony of going from single to married. She's a very good friend of mine, so I know her personally, and I was actually one of her bridesmaids. So this story is going to be very inspiring, and it's going to give you a lot of hope, and it's going to shed light on different journeys of how you can go from single to married. And my girl Taye is here. Hey y'all, hey. Welcome to the party, everyone. As you're coming in, share this with a friend that may need some encouragement, that may need some enlightenment, that may need
Hey.
just another wind of hope when it comes to believing for their husband. Hey girl.
Hi.
How you doing, girl?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, girl.
Awesome.
Tay is one of my near and dear friends. I love, love, love her in real life. We do life together, and I just love her. And I told you guys that I was going to start bringing some of my friends on to share their stories that are married, and just so you guys can get a glimpse of some of the women that I get to watch in real life do this marriage thing and do it well. I always tell Tay and her husband they do marriage so well, and I think you guys are going to be inspired by her story. She and I met so many years ago. We met through a group of women. There was a ministry at the time that had women gathering together and doing Bible studies. And when we met at her house, or she held it at her house, we just clicked. It was like, you're my person. And from there, we were in the streets together. When we was outside, I got to see her go from single to married. I was one of her bridesmaids. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand the mic over to you so you can introduce yourself and give us a glimpse of what life was like before you were married and how you transitioned into marriage.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. It's so awesome to be on live with you. I watch your lives all the time as my friend and supporter. But so I am a wife. I'm a creative. I'm a beauty enthusiast. I'm a leader in my industry. I'm a friend, sister, bunch of things, and I can go on and on. So my life before I was married. So I'm originally from New York, born and raised. Um, and I was, like you said, kind of, out there, like doing my thing, going out. I was in my early 20s, so I was doing my thing. And then I had the idea I'm like, all right, I'm done with New York. I'm 24. I want to go somewhere else. I wanted to move to Atlanta. So, because Atlanta was the it place, and I was like, I even went down there, looked at apartments, all the things. And when I tried to apply for jobs down there, could not get a job. Doors would not open. As soon as I decided to come to North Carolina, instantly job, perfect, because I was moving out on my own at first. So fast forward 2015, I moved down to North Carolina. I met you, and in that group that we were in at the time, it was all about keeping yourself, preparing for your husband, purity, all that. So I was gun ho. I wasn't, doing anything. I dated here and there, but at the time I moved to North Carolina, I was single for 7 years, 7 whole years, no relationship, dated here and there, but nothing. So I was looking for churches. So I joined the church down the street from me. And my now husband was the music minister or the music director at that church. Wasn't even checking for it. I was just like, I'm just trying to make friends. So after church, I'm like, hey, I'm new. Let's go to brunch. Let's do all that stuff. He would curve me every single time. Oh, I gotta go to my mom's house to cook. Oh, I gotta do something. Oh, I'm busy. And I'm like, Dag, is it me? So I winded up befriending another young lady at our church, and she winded up being interested in him. So I'm working like, girl, do your thing. Like, do it. I'm here to support you because I'm that girl. Like, I would put the battery in your bed. My husband is on this chat, so he's seeing everything. But he was like, no, I'm checking for you. So I'm just like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, no, he was very firm. He was like, I am trying to pursue you. So I was like, all right, let's see where this goes. So Unfortunately, the friendship didn't last between myself and the young lady for obvious reasons, but I was super happy to pursue a potential relationship. And as I was dating with a purpose. I wasn't casually dating. I had a firm purpose on being a wife. So in those 7 years, God was preparing my heart, my mind, my spirit to be a wife. So we dated probably the end of the summer of 2016. And I was like, before this gets serious, I need to know who sent you. So I need 7 days. I need to fast and pray. I need to know who sent you because you're not about to be a distraction. So I didn't talk to him. We didn't text. And things to me left and right. Confirmations about his personality, confirmation about things he'll do or say. So at the end of the 7 days, we had a very um, deep conversation about things that God revealed to both of us. And when I met his family, which all happens to be from New York, let me just say, when I moved to the South, I wanted like a Southern, nice, sweet Southern man. No, my husband's from Long Island. So all the families from New York, which felt very much at home for me. But, we confirmed a lot of things. So we started dating in August. Leading up to that, he proposed to me in January. So our dating phase was 5 months. I've known him a little bit longer than that, but 5 months. And it was kind of shocking to me because usually you'll hear society say, oh, you need to date at least 2-3 years so you know. He knew, and I knew because we felt it, and our foundation has always been in Christ. So anything that we do before moving forward, we always prayed about it to make sure that it made sense in the kingdom. So just to touch a little bit on how he proposed, which was like, I know, Jen, you give him grief about this every time.
Y'all, I was not included in the proposal, but anyhow, tell your story.
To be fair, he didn't really know her that well. She was living in Atlanta at the time. But it was at the Museum of History in North Carolina. So he was like, my brother needs help with a book report. At the time, his brother was in high school. So I'm like, yeah. I love like anything scholastic, academically based. I'm there. So he's like, make sure you dress up nice because we're gonna go to lunch after. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I'm dressed, and we get to the museum, and I'm telling his mother, I'm like, he's talking about he want to move in with me. I'm not shacking with nobody that's not gonna be my husband. So no, we have to be at least engaged. I'm not doing it. So, and little as I knew at the time, that's what was gonna happen. So we get to the museum. We're in a section that's talking about like Black history. At the time, they had like a section set up. So I see him and his mother, George's brother and his mom pull out their phones. And then when I go, it's like a maze. So I see random people, his aunts, giving me a rose. I'm like, oh, you here to do the book report too? So they're giving me a rose, and I'm walking through his grandparents, his other cousins. Everybody's just giving me roses. And I'm like, what are y'all doing here? So then by the time I got to my family, lost it. Ugly cried, makeup done. So my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, my niece. And by the end of that, I had 12 dozen roses. So then everybody has their phones out, and I go to like this big, great room with like floor to ceiling windows. And then he had another bouquet of roses. And then that's when he proposed. At that time, I was all cried out. I was just like, all right, this is happening. And then he couldn't find the ring. So I started laughing a little bit. And I know he wanted me to be all emotional, but I started laughing. And he proposed. And then I said, yeah. And then we went out to eat. And then we stayed engaged as long as it took to plan a wedding. So it was about a little less than a year and a half. And 8 years later and 6 years later, we're still married and we're still together. We bought a house together in the midst of COVID. So it goes to show, like, regardless of what society believes is the norm, like when God says move, you move. When he's ready for you in that appointed time, those things will come to fruition. And honestly, at that time, I felt super hopeless. I'm like, I'm never going to get married. All my friends are getting married. They having kids. They buying houses. And I just felt hopeless. But then it just happened, and it happened quickly, and I couldn't even get my head on straight. So yeah, so that's pretty much the gist of like my story. And like Jen said, she was one of my bridesmaids, so she's been there from the beginning, so she's seen kind of the phases of our relationship. And I'm so thankful because like my friends are like his sisters, and he's very protective over them as he is for me. And he's just a great guy, so I feel really blessed.
She is very blessed. Her her husband is like my bodyguard. Like, I will not even talk about a man unless I'm serious about him, because he's like, well, he's got to come through me first.
Yeah.
Because they also got to see what happened with me with my divorce. Tay was one of the people that was there for me, and I shared intimate things with her. So they saw firsthand how it broke me down. So her husband is like, yeah, no, it ain't happening again. Period. Okay, and I'm grateful for that, because you need friends like that around you that
Mm-hmm.
love you that much, that they're like, hey, I saw what you went through. I got your back this next time around, and I'm not gonna let you be led astray. And their
Mm-hmm.
wedding, y'all, they didn't even talk about the wedding. With both of
Yeah.
their families being from NY, like, you would not have known that. You didn't know which side of the family was which. When I
Mm-hmm.
say like the bringing together of families was so evident in their wedding, it was like you just knew that they were all meant for each other.
Yeah,
Okay, Jen is not for play
definitely.
play. Okay.
Definitely, yeah. So
um,
I
I,
love it.
I laughingly joke and say I'm their forever plus one, because I have like met them out to eat and going to the fair with them, and we have our own little outings, and I'm the
We
third wheel sometimes,
do.
and
We
I
do.
absolutely love
We
it.
say that George is the third wheel.
Right. George is me and Tay's third wheel, okay? Really. But their wedding was beautiful. We had a time. You hear me? We had a time. And we've been having a time ever since then. And I'm just excited for everything that is gonna happen for them in the coming years, and that I get to do life with. He said
Yes.
he said no, I'm the plus one. That we get to do life together. But Tay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because you said that there was a point where you were like, you lost hope and you didn't know how it was
Hmm.
going to happen. How did you manage those moments?
Truthfully, so what ran in tandem with that was the fact that I lost my job, a job that I've been with for years. So being new to North Carolina, losing my job, literally had nothing. And not to say that God is my last hope, but literally in my face, in the Bible, in the Word, that's what truly kept me through. This may sound like kind of like, I don't want to say corny, but I used to write letters to my future husband. And in my prayer closet, I would write a letter and talk about like what I'm going to be like as a wife, and keep that as kind of like a marker for me to know that even though in this hard time, God is going to give me the desires of my heart, is along with his will and his timing. But truly like leaning in to his word and trusting and believing, because I literally had nothing else to lose. I really truly just focused on that and my relationship and growing myself and working on myself, so that I was in preparation to be a good presentation of a wife for whenever that season was, for when I would be found. So, and then having support of friends like you and Alicia and Tanya, and just various friends that I can kind of glean on and kind of exchange these feelings I was feeling. So having a good circle around you to help build you up during those hard times. And I think that that's what really kept me through, just the hope and knowing that even though it's not happening right now, everything occurs in the right season. So for me, my season was 7 years long. So, but I'm so glad that it happened the way and when it did, because um, had it happened any earlier, I don't think I would have been prepared to receive my husband, my now husband, the way that I did at the time that we actually met.
So George said to X what he said. Ask her what I told her during that time. What did he tell you, sis?
Okay, so during that time, like I said, it was 4 months before I found another job. So it was like rough. I had no family in the area that I was living in. So it was just me. So during that time we had started kind of like talking, and I was just kind of sharing with him like what I'm going through. And he was like, and I kind of felt bad because I'm like, dang, like this guy's trying to pursue me, and I'm like falling all apart, crying every 5 minutes. He was like, I will love you at your worst, but I can celebrate you at your best. And he said that 8 years ago. And I still remember that. And it's like, that goes to show like the foundation of our relationship, because we did not meet in ideal circumstances. There was no like lavish 5-star restaurant or anything like that. He met me when I didn't have a job, literally. Like, we started dating when I did not have a job. I had like no assurance of anything, but he never went astray. He helped me pay my bills. He still took me out. We still had a good time because, you know, he knew that it was just a season and a rough patch that I was going through. So,
He's
yeah.
a good man, Savannah. A good man.
Lord.
Okay. So for those of you that are just coming in, it's some key things that I hope y'all are taking note here, because I wrote them down. First of all, her obedience led her to North Carolina. She wanted to go one place and God told her to come here. And guess what? When she got here, she met her husband. Okay. So first things first, she was obedient. She did not go on her plan. She went on God's plan. Another thing, when they encountered each other and she was like, you know what? I think he could possibly be the one. She said, look, give me 7 days. I need 7 days. She was not afraid to detach from this man for a whole week in order to get clarity from God. She was not living from a scarcity mindset or a mindset of somebody's going to snatch him up in these 7 days. She said, give me 7 days so that way I can seek the Lord and make sure that what I'm feeling and what I'm sensing is actually God.
Mm-hmm.
Then they got confirmation. Okay. Upon confirmation, upon confirmation. Then it was a quick work.
Quick.
5 months.
Quick.
5 months. And their foundation was rooted and started and still is in prayer.
In prayer. In prayer. Yes. To this day. To this day. Just because you get your man doesn't mean that you stop praying. No, because as your relationship grows, so does the trials, so does the tribulation, so does the responsibility. So pray harder when he does come.
I know that's right. I know that's right. He said, in all honesty, it was a long 7 days. Look, I can see that, especially when it's somebody that you really like and you're like, oh, I would just want to talk to them. I want to get to know them. I want to spend time with them. It's like, you want me to take 7 days away from you? Like, what? But one thing that one of my good friends always says, Stephen Chestnut, they know Stephen, he says, you never want to rush to somewhere you want to stay forever.
Yes.
And that's something that it always sticks with me. It's like, you know what? If I gotta take 7 days to get to forever, let me go ahead and take these 7. But I could definitely understand how that is challenging when you
100%. Yeah.
when you find your person. Somebody was laughing at George in the question box. If you guys do have questions for Taye, go ahead and put them in the question box, and we'll take a few of them because I don't want to take all of her time because she's married, okay? And you know, married people do married stuff, and I want them to do all the married stuff that they want to do. Amen and amen, okay? Because I need them to stay married forever and ever and ever, as they will. But it was a question I wanted to ask you. What do you feel was one of the things that when you finally got married, what was one thing that you were like, ooh, I didn't consider this when I was single?
How hard it would be to adjust with living with a man, because I've never lived with a man before. And me having my own space and then moving in and having this idea of, oh, he's gonna click with all the things that I like to do and all the ways that I like to live. Did not. The first couple of months was a hard transition with living together, because the way that we were brought up was different. The way that we lived separately was different. So merging our two worlds, I was like, I didn't think it would be this hard. Also, communication. I know it sounds very cliche, but the communication aspect is so key. You have to move as a unit. because you think about the mechanisms of how a car works. All the wheels roll at the same time. They communicate with each other because of one wheel is turning this way and the other's turning that way. You're not moving anywhere. So communication was major key for us. And I was a little stubborn. I can throw myself under the bus because I had this mindset. I was very like forward thinking. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna do, whatever, and keep, doing what I like to do, but not considering the fact that you have a partner and another person that you now have to consider. So, those were just some of the pangs that I had to deal with early marriage. But it's gotten a lot better since then. But yeah, the moving in together was like, ugh. I was like, it's hard, but
Yeah.
it's fine.
Going from
It's
being by yourself and doing things your way to having to
yeah.
cohabitate with somebody.
Woo. I was like, if I see, sorry, babe. If I see one more sock on the floor, I'm gonna flip. If I
So,
see one more
George, pick up your socks, bro.
He's gotten a lot better. He's so much better now. And I make suggestions. I'm like, don't you want to pick up your socks? Wouldn't it be good? He's like, all right, I got it. I'm sorry. I
But did
forgot.
y'all catch that? Did y'all catch that womanly wisdom that she just threw in there for communication? She said, "Don't you think it would be good for you to pick up your socks?" How her voice softened and how she made a suggestion versus a demand. I hope y'all picking up these nuggets that she's dropping, okay? Because they some of them are a little silent, but they like pew catch it.
Yeah. So, and in the way you communicate with them, because you don't want to sound demanding, you don't want to sound mothering. And that's something that I needed to work on because I'm the type of person, like, if I want something done, I'm very action oriented. I'm just going to get it done. Whereas, my husband's more meticulous, like more calculated and more meticulous and have to kind of think the whole thing through. So instead of saying, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, da, 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 it's more like, it would make me feel amazing if you did da 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 da. And I think that he receives it better that way. And um, it allows him to feel respected and not, emasculated. I think a lot of women, especially that are very strong willed, can kind of like either mother or make their man feel like 2 inches tall by like kind of lording themselves over them. So I'm very particular in how I communicate with him, how he's viewed when we're in public. Um, I'm never talking down to him. I'm never ever cursing at him or saying anything that will crush his spirit or anything like that. I always want him to feel loved, respected, appreciated above all else. So that communication aspect, especially coming from us, it hits them different as opposed to coming from a friend or a mom or aunt or
Yeah,
whatever.
for sure. So another question that was asked was, what did you do during those 7 days? And I'm gonna combine it with this question: what were the
Mm-hmm.
confirmations that were
Yeah.
presented or revealed? Only what you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And I gotta dig in. This was 8 years
Right.
ago, so I'm see what I can dig out. One of the things that was really important to me was a strong family ethic because I come from a big family on both sides. So someone that truly, truly loved family and was um, really a major player within their family. And I see how he interacts with his mother and how he interacts with his grandparents and his cousins and his aunts. So that I'm like, if he treats them with the highest respect and he treats them with so much love, I know that as his wife, he'll do that for me times 10. So like people say, oh, I'm a family man. I'm like, well, what does that look like? I'm very big on actions. You can say whatever you want to say, but if it's not followed up by actions, it's literally empty words for me. Um, what was another thing? Um, Also his relationship with God. I'm like, I don't want somebody that's just gonna be in the church just because it's your job or it's just something you do. I need to know that you bout it, like for real, for real. So I see how he, is growing and wanting to, and wanting to really have a strong relationship with God. And we all have our journeys and our walks and our levels, but like truly, truly exemplifying himself as a man of God. And things like that, just small things, just actions, because I pray about it. But I wanted to see it walked out. And throughout the days and weeks and stuff to follow, those were things that I saw and I noticed. The family thing was very huge for me, because if I'm considering marrying into a family, I need to make sure that it's someone that has the same synergy as I do and same energy as I do. And immediately his family and I clicked. His cousin gave me the third degree, but I still love her. Love you, Taylor. But I click with his family so well. He clicks with mine. It just works. I'm gonna
that.
mention one of his confirmations. It's so small, but it's like really significant. When we were at his grandparents' house, or not his grandparents' house, his godmother's house, and he was grilling in the backyard. He was sweating profusely because it was hot. I took a paper towel and folded it up and dabbed his head. And knowingly, I did not know that was one of the specific things that he prayed about. It kind of reminds me of that story in the Bible where he's like, oh, if that's going to be my wife, have her to offer me a drink and my camel a drink. It was one of those situations where he was like, God, if this is my wife, she's going to do this. And that's exactly the thing that I did. And that was major confirmation, something so simple. And he was like, all right, that's it.
I love that. Two things, because George made a comment too. But I think that one of the things that I love that you said was that you wanted to see him walk out what you knew about a man of God from what you knew from the word.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm always telling my girls on this platform is make sure your relationship with God is solid, because you don't know if a man is walking out being a kingdom man if you're not reading the word for yourself.
Right.
If you don't know what it says, you don't know what it's going to look like. So I love
Right.
that you said that. And the man of God said, he said, I don't think Taye knows this, but they started dating officially in August, but he knew that she was his wife by September.
Oh. I didn't know that. See, when you think you know somebody. I had no idea. I thought that he knew like later in that year, because he was like, I'm not proposing to you on Christmas. I was like, all right, that's fine.
Well, typically they say that the guys know sooner. So that's amazing that, y'all started dating in August. He knew in September. You took your 7 days and was like, look, let me pray about this and let me see what's going on.
Yeah.
And you got your confirmation. He got confirmation. 5 months later, y'all are engaged. A year and some change later, y'all are married. And here we are 8 years later, and y'all are two of my favorites in the whole wide world. And your marriage is absolutely beautiful. Okay.
Yes.
So we have another question.
Yeah.
Was there a specific feeling you had when you made the decision to move, or once you got here?
So it wasn't a feeling. It was more so, okay, so my parents were moving from New York to North Carolina. And I wasn't going to stay in New York because mortgage is high there. So I'm like, I got to go somewhere else. But my decision to move here was partially because they were here, but then also because when I wanted to move to Atlanta, I could not find a job, y'all. Like literally doors were shut, would not open, because I know I needed a higher paying job if I'm going to live by myself. So as soon as I made the decision, just out of like kind of just giving in, like, all right, I'll just go to North Carolina, stay there for like a year, then go to Atlanta. The door opened up. Literally 2 weeks after I made that decision, I wound up getting a job offer. So,
Boom.
And I had some friends that lived in like the Chapel Hill, Durham area. So I had a couple of like college friends, high school friends rather, that actually introduced me to Jen that lived here. So I didn't feel totally alone. I just in my immediate area, but I felt good once I got here because the Raleigh-Durham area is like bustling at the time, like I'm new kid on the block. What's out there? Who can I see? Who can I know? Who can I be friends with? So that was kind of my mindset.
So this question, and this is a question that I get a lot, because girls are always like, well, I'm not really attracted to him, but he's a good guy. So she said, when you first met your husband, were you initially attracted to him by his looks or just his personality, or was it both?
So it was initially probably more so personality, and it's not because of I didn't like the way he looked. And I'm gonna say this: I think my husband is very handsome. He's a very handsome man. However, I was being a little vain, and I didn't like his style. So that was probably the one thing. I was like, he is this tall. My husband's 6'3", very tall, and he used to wear like these 4X shirts. I'm like, sir, we are not in 2003. Like, so I think because his style, like his choice of clothing was not like what I was initially attracted to, I think that I kind of gleaned more on building a friendship and being more kind of going down that route. But that's when he intercepted it. He was like, well, you will not friend zone me. So we're not having that. But I think that when it comes to choosing your spouse, I think you should have some level of attraction to them. But people change throughout the days. I mean, as my relationship grew with him, I gained more and more attracted. But on the flip side, I had some involvement. So we went shopping, we changed the hairstyles, we did this. I kind of added tidbits of things that I liked. And he does the same for me. And kind of built and shaped into the man that he is now today. So I don't think it's anything wrong with that. It doesn't take away from his individuality. It doesn't take away from who he is at his core. But in the beginning, I think more so like I was more concerned about the heart. Like the external stuff is fine, but that wasn't my immediate goal, because you can have a beautiful face and an empty heart, and I don't want that. Because I don't know about y'all, but forever is a long time. A long time. And you need more than just a pretty shell in order to have sustenance within your relationship. So,
Man.
yeah.
And he said she upgraded him. And ain't there I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that when two people come together, you come together because you're supposed to help each other. That's
Yeah.
why we are helpmeets. So there you see areas where I need improvement and vice versa. And that's why we're here together to make each other better, because the Bible says what? Two is better than one. Hello. Okay,
Right.
so it's a beautiful thing when two people can come together and not be offended and say, hey, I think that if you changed and tweak this and do that, it'll
Mm-hmm.
be better. And all that I've seen by watching them is that whatever they're doing behind closed doors, it is working, because they're both grown. I'm literally watching them grow before my eyes, not just as a unit, but even separately, right? So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. What is one thing that you would tell single women right now that are waiting for their one day spouse, but they are they pretty much given up? They're just like, you know what, I'm throwing in the towel. What would you say to that woman?
I would say, like, simply, like, don't be weary in well doing, because, like, there's a season for everything. Flowers don't bloom in the winter. Like, leaves don't fall in the summer. Well, they might fall in the summer, but typically they fall in fall. There's a season for everything. And I think that while you're in the waiting period, and it's hard, especially when you see social media and start anything that causes you to be in a place of discontentment in the season that you're in, cut it off. Cut it off, cut it off until you get to a place of where you're like, okay, I can continue on. But don't be weary in well doing. Like, God will allow things to happen in his time, in his way. And when you do things to rush the process, you wind up getting a whole bunch of people that are imposters. And you don't want imposters. You want people that's going to be your person, the person that God has ordained for you, the person that you're meant to live with and do life with forever. So don't be weary. 7 years is a long time. That was a long time for me. And it was hard. But I'm glad. I would do it all over again. If it yielded the same results for the person that I'm marrying today, I would do it over again in a heartbeat. And
Amen.
yeah. So don't be weary and trust God. Focus on preparing yourself, preparing your heart. Because when that time does come, you want to be ready. So work on that time to prepare you.
Another question. Before your husband came along, how did you weed out the people that were the counterfeits?
Ooh, honey. Ooh. So I weeded people out because I was very forthcoming in my conversation. And I know this is probably not the I guess normal thing to do. When we go out on dates, I'm like, look, what's your plan? Like, do you want to be married? I'm not saying I'm
Right.
gonna marry you today, but I need to know what your intentions are. Because I'm dating with a purpose. And I left it. So if that means that after that conversation, after that date, they never called me again, that's not the person for me. Let your intentions be known. Like, don't just, I mean, if you want to casually date because you want to think it's fun, do you. Enjoy yourself. I did it. It was fun. It was great. But I got to a point where I'm just like, I want to be married. I want my person. So I was that bluntness completely eliminated the weeds out of the way. The wheat and the tear. The tear had to go. So I wanted the wheat. So that's what helped me to really eliminate people that did not have the same mindset as me, because I wasn't wanting to casually date for a long period of time.
I love that because I always tell them, like, when you know what you want, you ask questions that are in alignment with what you want, so you're not wasting your time or their time. And
Exactly.
some people are like, they want to wait to ask what a guy's intentions are, and I'm like, no, honey, those are one of the first things you need to go ahead and get out the way, so that
Get
way
it
we're
out the
not
way.
wasting time, especially if you are a wife and you know you are ready.
Mm-hmm.
If I know that I am ready and I'm supposed to be married, I need to know where are you at, because if
Right.
you're not in the same, if we can't do this and go together, that means somebody's going this way and I'm going that way, and we need to know that
Yeah.
from the rip. So
Exactly.
somebody asked, how old were you when you met your husband?
I was 2015, 2016. I was 26, 26, 27, 30, 31, 32, 33, 26 or 27. I think I was 26 turning 27. Yeah.
Okay.
So some time ago.
Okay, well, it's been what, about almost 40 minutes. I do not want to take up your entire evening. I know y'all got stuff to do. We were supposed to do this maybe a couple weeks ago, but y'all remember Instagram was being Instagram, and I was gonna be real mad if I wasn't gonna be able to save this or get through it. So we postponed it, and then today I just was like, "What you doing tonight, girl?" And she was like, she was able to come on live, and I was like, perfect, we're going to do it tonight. We agreed on the time, and now we're here. So as always, Tay, thank you so much. I just love you and your husband, of course, and so glad that you agreed to come on here and share your story with my girls, because I know so many things were said that is breathing hope back into somebody's heart that is probably weary, and to
Yeah.
another woman that's like, will it happen for me? And I love the fact that you're somebody that I can say like confidently, like, hey, I was there. Literally, I was there, right? So, any last words that you want to say to the ladies before we leave?
any last any last words? I just want to say that in your season of waiting, continue to seek the Lord for yourself. Continue to allow Him to shape and mold you into the best version of yourself, so that when that season does come for you to be found, you are without spot or wrinkle. And that man will know without a shadow of a doubt that you are his wife. And whether that takes 5 months, 6 months, a year, whatever the case may be, just prepare yourself so that when that season does come, there won't be any doubts, any fears. You'll know. And don't be weary. Surround yourself with other women that have the same mindset, and you can encourage each other. Iron sharpens iron. So find people within your community that have the same mindset as you. And especially, you have a community with single lady notes. Lean into that, so that way you can continue to keep yourself encouraged and know that everything has a season. Everything has a time. Don't rush it. Enjoy your single season. I enjoyed mine. So by the time my husband came, all that stuff was out of my system. So somewhat. No, I'm joking. But just be encouraged, and I can't wait to hear the testimonies. And it's the beginning of this year. Anything can happen. So I guess I'd say that.
Anything can happen. Again, I love you. Thank you so much, Boo. And you guys, I'll see y'all next time we're live.
Bye.